Good morning, everybody. It's Phil the Down Under Maker. How is everybody this morning? I know we've got Jex in chat and we had Nick a few minutes ago, so I assume he's around. Today, we're starting on something a little bit newer. We've given up on the box turtle for now. Reason being, there's a little bit more fettling that needs to be done on it. I've worked out where a major part of my issues have come from, and that is that the 8mm steel shafts are a little bit longer than the spec. They're about 81.5 or 82 millimeters long instead of 80. And that means that they're just too long and the respooler wheels have been binding up. So I have a fix for it. I tested that out on Monday, but then yesterday, which is normally my get ready for streams and get everything sorted out day, I was teaching. It was an awesome day. I was teaching media to a bunch of about 13-year-olds and a bunch of 15-year-olds. So much fun, photography, video recording, all that sort of cool stuff. But that meant I didn't get a chance to actually work on that anymore. But I had already got this 3D sets stuff planned, but I was panicking. Nothing arrived apart from the tires until 4:30 p.m. yesterday, and it's, 10 a.m. this morning. So yeah, it's been one of those days where I was thinking, this might not go as planned. And then it didn't just rain, it poured in terms of deliveries. I got sent by Big Tree Tech for no apparent reason. And I've even asked my reps. They sent me a Panda Touch. I've spoke to the guy who I deal with when I'm doing the betas. He doesn't know anything about it. And it was definitely sent by somebody within Big Tree Tech because it had an internal order number on the sticker. So weird. Nobody knows who sent it, but I got sent cool toys. Obviously, everybody knows I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to the bamboo printers, but these things are exactly identical hardware to the Clipper version. So I'm planning on flashing that over to K-Touch with the K-Touch firmware, and then I can use it with my Clipper printers, which is going to make life nice and simple. So thank you, whoever sent it. Awesome work. I'm not sponsored in any way. Didn't know it was coming. But yeah, cool. New toys. What else has been going on? At Steve Builds, yeah, we all know what Steve's like. He likes to show us off all his toys. I ended up buying a JR Ready it's not JST, it's the other one, Molex Microfit 3 pin extractor. That's for the males, and when I've got a few spare dollars, I'll probably order the female one as well. I should have waited a week before I did some work on my boron, because this would have become really, really handy and saved me a lot of heartache and hassle. I'm not sure if too many of you are familiar with the E3D ecosystem, but the Revos, they have microfit for the thermistor and for the heater, and the fabric insulation starts to decay after a while. So the insulation was all dropping back, and what I could have done is use this to take the plastic housing off the pins, put some heat shrink over the insulation, and then put it all back together. But what I had to do was actually cut the plug off. So I'm seeing Jex is asking what this actually does. So let me see if I can find, not JSTs, Molex, somewhere here. DuPont, no. Oh, give me a moment. Let me find something. I know I've got one here somewhere. There. No, that's the female. Toolbox. Another female. There we go, male version. So let's go to this one. So JST, Molex Microfit 3 male and female. This, if I open it up, I blame you for this, Jex. It's all you. Let's tilt this camera up just slightly. There we go. How does this open? Does it slide? I can't even work out how to open the damn thing. There. So inside, it's got these really tiny prongs and it's got a depressor. So you slide this in. Is it from the back? Must be from the back. And you press it and it depins it for you. So yeah, on the crimp itself, it actually has two little barbs which poke out, and this depresses the barbs and allows you to slide it out of the... So barbs stick out from the pin like this. It squeezes them flat so you can then slide the crimp out of the fitting. I'll need to have a look at that and work out how it works more thoroughly. Yeah, but Steve Builds has one. He used it on stream. It looked awesome. And peer pressure and stuff, so I ended up parting with some dollars. But that was minor dollars compared to the giant shipment I had. So, we have a speed controller for the radio control. I haven't even opened this. I've literally just taken the address label off it. Let's go to... Let's get rid of the filament too for a minute. Charging and simulator cable. Fly Sky remote control. And what appears to be some stickers. Yay. Okay. Let's just get rid of that. I'm not sure it'll even power on because I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. No, it looks like it's going to need batteries. Yeah, it's going to need some batteries putting in there. But we'll worry about that later because we don't need that right now. Put that and that and that all together. And speed controller, won't worry about that for now. It's just a box we plug into the receiver. This is the receiver. Now this cost, the radio control with the 6-channel receiver ended up costing me about $45 American delivered. That's the battery pack for the truck. Just take extended AA size batteries. I probably will end up buying some rechargeables. But certainly for getting it going, I'm just going to rely on alkaline batteries. Whether you need it or not, Jex, is one of those things where you need to work out, do you actually use the microfits? If you're using a lot of microfits, definitely worth it. If you're not, just buy a pack and just tear them off and replace. It's probably going to be just as easy long term. Paisley's mug on stream, as usual, as is tradition. What I've got here is all my files, just in case we need to fiddle with any of the parts that we've printed out. And deal alert. I'm not sure whether this is just Australia or if it's international, but there's a subsection in AliExpress's app at the moment called 6 for 9, which I'm assuming would change by currency internationally. You get 6 products for $9 Australian in their special bundles section, and they have the NeoPixel microsequins in amongst all that. So after shipping and tax landed in Australia, the 6 whatever doohickeys I ordered ended up costing about $11.50. And yeah, amongst it was NeoPixel sequins. So grabbed some of those for my printer. And I grabbed some stickers for the kids and that sort of stuff. There was all sorts of random stuff in there, including if you're into bootlace crimps for your electrical stuff. There was big packs of 1,000 of various sizes of bootlace crimps on there. Not sponsored in any way by that. I'm just letting people know that there's a deal out there. So that's covered, that's covered, that's covered. Talked about the Panda Touch. Now let's talk about the 3D sets stuff a little bit more. Now, let's jump across to here. For those of you who missed last week's stream where we were talking about this, the amount of times I've had to cut and recrimp CAN bus cables. Yes, the 4-pin CAN bus. Although having said that, the Molex microfit is going away pretty much for all the manufacturers. And if you had a look at Taylor, Canuck Creator's stream when he was doing the Big Tree Tech factory tour, you will see that it looks like the Gen 2 of the new EBB boards is moving away from the Molex style plugs as well and moving over to the XT30+2 style. So that's going to be very handy. The other thing I managed to get as part of that deal, just thinking about it, where's my little tub of stuff? Also part of that deal, which came in very handy for this, swap back to me, a pack of XT60 connectors, which are great for battery packs on radio control toys. So that was part of that 6 for 9 deal that I found. Other things I've ordered and came in yesterday was lots and lots of M3 screws. There's like, you need about 130 M3x6 and you need 60 or so M3/8s. This thing is very, very hardware intensive in terms of fasteners. Bearings. Now, there's two things they recommend that you order that are Lego parts, or you can print your own. Hi, Brad. That is tires, which I ordered. I ordered the tires because I don't have a profile I like well enough to use for TPU at the moment. And there's also this thing, it's another Lego tire, but they use it as a shock absorber in the build. That is still somewhere between here and Indonesia because that was the only place I could source it from. So that hopefully will come in the not too distant future. It's arrived in Sydney. It's cleared customs, but I'm in Perth and Sydney's the other side of the continent. So we're probably talking 7 days by truck to get here. So fingers crossed that will be here for next week's stream and we don't need it in the meantime. Now, printed parts. Let's get rid of the fasteners for a moment so I don't knock them on the floor. Get rid of the filament that we need to start printing within a minute. Tires we've talked about. Printed parts. Some of these parts are going to need cleaning up because there's a little bit of stringing and stuff on them. It's nothing major, so I'm not stressing about it. There's no real surface imperfections. Let's go to that camera because it's a little bit clearer. The surface came up really nice. So this was all printed on my Ender 5. You missed the color selection. Hi, projects. Color selection ended up being, so let's jump back to this picture for a second. The cab is going to be a really deep red, which is what we're going to start printing in a few moments, and so is the bonnet, and so hood, as you Americans sometimes call it, and the tray is going to be a very deep blue. I'm also going to print these trims on the side, so here, in red and blue, and we're going to pick which one looks the best. Because it's a line thing in terms of what's going to come out the best. So we're going to print both and we'll pick it as we build. Now, while we're on the subject of my Ender 5, I got some questions offline about why I was using my Ender 5 print and not my Voron. One very good reason, my Voron is heavily optimized for printing ABS and ASA and nylon and polycarbonate. So it gets toasty. And quite simply, I can't keep it cool enough. I'd have to take the doors off. I'd have to take the top panel off. It's not worth the hassle of messing around with. So what I've elected to do instead is print it all on my Ender 5, suck up the fact that it takes a little bit of time to do. It's going to be a fun build project. It's going to probably take, I reckon, 4, maybe 5 streams to get it all done and dusted. But my wife agreed that I don't have to pay for any of the stuff if the kids get to play with it. So I'm going with that, but they probably won't get to play with it very much because it's going to be Dad's toy. So where we're at, I've printed most of the parts that I think will be a silver/gray. I've printed all of the parts that I think will be black, and now I'm slowly working on printing all of the stuff that's the color features, like the hood of the truck and the roof and the tray. That's the part I'm up to. The reason I've left those until now is obviously we needed these parts that I've got in the tray here to be able to start building, whereas those other parts aren't until later in the build when I skim through the build guide. So what we're going to do is very quickly, I'm going to load up have a cold side jam in my printing silk. I hate printing PLA. PLA, that's why I keep my Ender 5 around. Morning, Adrian. Yes, you're late. Where have you been? Dude, seriously. Come on, you know what time I start streaming. So yeah, my Ender 5 is what I keep it around because it's very, very nice, very well tuned, and very precise in its printing. So why mess with something? I keep it here for printing all my PLA stuff. One thing that I did finally get to do was I won a build plate from, well, I actually won a Panda scraper thingy from Big Tree Tech, but then they couldn't make them in time for actual distribution to prize winners. So they sent me a build plate instead as the prize, and that's been given a real workout. It's been really nice. It just sticks. You have a CR10 that you, definitely should use a CR10. Don't try not using clothes for PLA if you can avoid it. And for those of you who haven't heard my voice, I'm starting to get a little bit of a cold, I think, so I'm probably going to be sipping on the coffee a little bit just to keep my throat lubricated. So, pliers, I'm going to throw out of the way for a minute. Parts under the bench. And let's go across to here. And Super Slicer does connect at the moment. Yay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Now, interestingly, the 3MF plates that they give you for these builds have been really good, really well supported, but I've had one set of parts let go, and that was those two trim pieces that are basically covers for where the fuel tanks go on the truck. And they let go for no apparent reason. The build plate was clean. There was a little bit of adhesive on it, but I reprinted those and they printed out perfectly the next time. So it says it's door 1, but what's door 2? Not sure what's happened there. Let's have a look at door 2. Ah, so they're other parts. Okay, that makes sense. So let's get rid of those. Let's go to door 1. They, to me, all look like internal parts. So let's have a quick look. Window glass, we won't need. Door inners, door inners, door inners, door inners. Yeah, this is all internal stuff. So that's probably going to be in either gray or black. Let's go door 2. That is the outer skins of the doors. So that we're going to want to print, and that's going to be printed in red. And cab roof. I'm just going to see if we can fit these both on the bed. The plates I'm using are for a Prusa Mini because I found that my profile really nicely matches that. And the reason it reasonably closely matches that is my Ender has a modified tool head on it. It's got a Big Tree Tech H2 V2 Revo. And because of that, I lose a little bit of X travel. Speaking of work time, it's off. No worries, project. Catch me on a board. I'll try and drop into your stream later in the week if I can. Now, should we play Russian roulette and see if we can get that to print with no supports? It's got a window glass. I'm going to not bother printing the window glass because I'm going to go clear, which actually means I can move that there and that there. So, after much messing around and lots of very careful measuring, I worked out that my printer is not printing to exact scale. And I need to make some minor adjustments to the scaling when I print to make everything work. Did I only do that to one part? I only did that to one part. That's Control Z, 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 Control A. Okay, so in X and Y, I'm finding it's printing a fraction too small. And if I scale it up by 0.37, so 100.37, that in X and Y, that then it prints it exactly the right dimensions. And I'm finding that in Z, I have to print it 103% to get it to print at the right Z height. Obviously, very minor imperfections in the way it's set up, but this is working for me, so I don't really want to mess with it anymore. Next, shall we see if we can get the hiss of puncturing this filament? Got my microphone nice and close, get my knife. Will we get a hiss? No hiss. Oh well. Now this is a very glossy PLA Plus that has a kind of a wet look when it's printed. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, I've got some other options. The other thing is with my current setup, I need to boost up my filament dryer that I use for holding the filament. Otherwise it's not. Actually, this is fresh filament. I'm going to try something different today. I have been printing straight from my filament dryer. But this being fresh, clean filament, I'm going to print straight from the spool today and save myself setting up the filament dryer on something to hold it up in the right height. It's 10:30, yeah, it's 10:30 a.m. here. And Nick, where have you been? I saw you here earlier. Where did you run away to? It's not good enough, man. You should be here for the whole stream. Just joking. So for Nick the Slacker, who's only just got here, I'm just starting to print some more parts for the truck, and then we'll start actually doing some building. You missed me opening some stuff. One thing I've always found with this H2 is getting the filament into it in the first place can be a bit difficult. All right, that seems to be in place. Extrude. Try cutting a taper on the filament. There we go. 25 at 5 millimeters a second, extrude. Jump out of the way so you guys can sort of see a little bit. I'm just priming the nozzle at the moment. Getting rid of that silver gray that I was using for the wheel hubs and other features. Let's go to just me, then you can see a little bit better. Actually, let's go across to Super Slicer. Now I've got this all set up so that I can slice and send directly to my printer. You won't be able to see the pop-up box, but I've currently got a pop-up box here saying upload and print. And it's popped off to the printer. And it's doing its whole warming up thing. Now, let's work out what we need to do for getting this going. Close the knife before I stab myself. Get rid of that extrusion. Kids, you know the story. Yep, definitely know the story. My 3.5-year-old last night decided to go absolutely mental for no reason. Just decided that the whole world hated her and she hated the whole world. So, Super Slice is going. Let's go to this and swap over to that. Okay, what we're looking at here is the build guide for the 3D Sets Roady Dumper. This is available directly on their website. So if you don't even need to buy the STL files. You can just come straight to the build guide, and it is here if you wanted to follow along. I've already got it downloaded, and for ease, I'm going to chuck it into slideshow mode. For some reason, Super Slicer shows up behind here. Let's turn that off. That's annoying. Okay, now I can't do much about the opacity of chat. It's going to look a bit odd. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit. That'll be in filters. Okay, that might make it a little bit more readable. So, dimensions of this truck, 50 centimeters long, well, near enough 50 centimeters long, 16 centimeters wide, what was that? That's 4 inches, it's about 6 inches, 6.5 inches wide, and a height of 20 centimeters, which is 8 inches tall. So, it's big. Up to 3 motors. I have all 3 motors for this. Differentials are in a locked state. That's all. The motors are just a sealed unit from what I remember. Powered by common AA batteries. Tires can be 3D printed with Flex, or you can buy the Lego ones. Like I said earlier, I bought the Lego ones. I've got the off-road ones. The tipper is manually operated and the doors can be opened. Cab can be tilted forwards, blah, 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 blah. Ready for color printing. Already got that. No glue used. All the parts hold together with metric M3 screws. No tiny M2s in this kit. Fast build for kids to help with adults. No soldering is required. Sometimes. I might need to do a little bit of soldering to handle the last bit of the electronics. And ready for radio control. Changelog. Before you start, make sure your printer is calibrated. That's what I was talking about. You must calibrate your printer, otherwise these parts aren't going to fit together well. Things just don't work. Let's jump back to me for a moment. 1, 2, 3 different calibration prints trying to get it exactly right. You have to have it to the point where the bearings are a very slight press fit into the holes. If they're not just snug and a snug interference, they're never going to come back out and you're going to have all sorts of difficulties. Also means that some of the parts just won't fit together nicely. So having your your X, Y, and Z dimensions all set up is a must. Okay. Are you new to radio control models? Not really. Have I built any radio control models at this level before? Nope. But I've built lots of 3D printers, so I'm hoping most of my skills are going to be transferred. Let's go to that one so you can see what I'm seeing again. Link to the parts for purchase. So this spreadsheet just gives you basically the full BOM. You've seen them all before if you've built a Voron. I just went down the list and picked which one was the most suitable or the most available. Most of the Amazon links are US Amazon, which means that they're completely useless to me here, but you get the idea. So, off-road tires I got. The shock absorbers are still in transit. They're in Sydney. All the electrical connectors we've got, hopefully in the ESC, they should come with it. Clear binding covers are only transparent foil. Oh, for the glass. The glass, I haven't picked it up yet, but there's a local hobby store with some 0.4 millimeter thick, I think it's PLA, that's going to be used for my windows. It seems to match what they've described pretty well, part for part. Grease and thread locker for securing fasteners on moving parts. I have grease. I'm going to use what's left of the grease from the box turtle. And for thread locker, I have blue nail varnish, which I find works quite nicely. And as I told you guys earlier, the fasteners pack for this is enormous. There's what, just quick numbers, 160, 190. There's about 240 fasteners in this build. So we're going to be doing lots of screwing. Here we go, talking about the printer calibration. Roady chassis. Okay. It gives you a suggested order of printing the parts. I've largely followed this. I haven't got to the details plus rear floor yet. Reason being, the filament match wasn't very good, and I have another spool of the black coming. And I'm not sure I'm necessarily going to even print it in black. I might print that as some of those parts in a different color. We'll see how that goes. Millions and millions of screws, as we've already discussed. And it's talking now about peeling off print-in-place supports. So, parts. I'm just going to go with hands plus me. And if it's relevant, then I'll swap back to the build guide as we go. So, one part. I'm pretty sure we're going to need that part shortly. The other parts. Now, let's jump back to here for 1 second. It says that I need to peel off these two red pieces on the back of the part. I think I might need to just lever that just a little bit for persuasion. The one thing I didn't have a chance to properly tune was my support gaps, but that's come off reasonably cleanly. Is it perfect? No. Is it clean enough? Yes. Nobody saw that. That's not come away entirely. Where's my snips? There. Now, one thing I learned from watching Steve build his Reaper and from Jeremy building his Reaper, and also a little bit of Zombie Hedgehog with his truck, having a set of needle files around is probably going to make life a lot simpler, just to fine tune the edges on some of these parts as we go. That's all good. That's all good. So we're going to need 2 M310s and a whole bunch of M316s. Where did I put my box of fasteners? There. Let's try and fit that there so it's just on camera, but not taking up too much build area. Get rid of the big screwdriver. Snippers are over there. I had another pair of snippers already on my desk. What am I doing? So, needle files are so underrated. Yes, they are. And they're so undercared for. My wife said, can I borrow a file so I can just get this broken nail? And it came back in 2 pieces. Yeah, so let's not turn this into my missus is worse than your missus session. So we need front frame, we need back frame. I've picked up the wrong part. Now, my cooling wasn't 100% tuned as well as it could do for bridging, and I probably should have used a bit of support. There's just this really long bridge that I didn't realize during the setup because it was the middle of the night and I was just plowing through the build plates. So this is all concealed inside. I'm not going to worry about it, but yeah, the bridging wasn't as neat as it probably could have been. So that part and that part, M3, 6, 8, 10, and we need 2 of those. And M3, 16. Now there are some other bigger sizes that I haven't bothered to sort separately at the moment. They are sitting in my parts bins up next to me. So as we need those, I'll grab those out. This is just what I ordered specifically for the build. File is not a pry bar. I've made that mistake. They're way too hard to be a pry bar. Pry bars need to have that flex. It's what gives them some of their leverage. So let's align this. I'm just going to show you guys what I'm seeing. Now, something which may, for people who build Vorons but don't build other things, as you can see, there's no heat sets on these. You just have to be a little bit subtle with your putting things together. You can't just... That's a smaller Allen key than I was expecting. That one. Okay. You just have to be a little bit subtle because you're putting screw threads into plastic. Now, I was cautioned that sometimes it's a good idea to get a small drill bit and just open up the tops of some of the screw holes, but I'll see how I go. And there's going to be lots of that creaking and moaning and groaning as I put these screws in because of the plastic giving a little bit as I lean on it. I'm going to swap to there for a moment, get rid of the mouse. The reason being the lighting and the contrast on that overhead camera isn't the best. So in order for me to show you what's going on, especially on these black on black parts, it's going to be better to do it this way. Now this is where I could probably do with an electric screwdriver, but I don't have one. I'm sure sooner or later Steve Builds will peer pressure me into buying one. You know, the way he does by just simply having a stream and you're watching the stream. So I'm just having a look at the build guide right now. It says that I need to put two M316s. That's what's going on. I was a little confused for a moment. I didn't realize that that part and that part were 2 different parts. So that's what's going on. I need to put the M316s through this part, which will then screw it into that part. Now, if we get to a point in the build guide where we're suddenly missing a part, for whatever reason. My plan is that we will put everything on pause. We will then flash the Panda Touch across to Clipper Touch, just for something to fill up the stream. I'm hoping we don't have that happen, but that's my plan B if we need it. Okay, that is threading in. Now, there's no order of operations on the build guide here for which order to put these screws in. If I was doing this another time, I'd probably put these M316s in first and then put the M310s in after. I think that would just help things go together a bit easier. Sorry, I know that's probably a little bit loud for you guys. The amount of pressure I'm needing to use means I can stop using the ball head on the Allen key. They're not going together as square as I was thinking they probably should. I'm going to loosen the M3, the other. So to be clear what's happening, I'm seeing a deviation. This part and this part aren't meeting cleanly. So what I'm doing is I'm doing it the way I suggested would probably be a better order of operations to do it. Instead, now I did see a recommendation from somebody online suggesting that sometimes it's a good idea to actually put these pieces in a vise, just very gently to hold them together. Steve Build uses hex drivers. Those can be really handy. I'm still yet to find a nice set of relatively affordable hex drivers here in Australia. Unfortunately, we don't have the population to justify a lot of manufacturers sending to Australia. That's meeting much nicer. So if I was to do that, I'd be basically if I was to be using hex drivers right now, I'd be basically using those magnetic ones that you slot into a like a socket set kind of arrangement. And they're not going to be any good. I think I've destroyed the head in the M316. Oh no, just very tight. That's better. Let's give it a shot. Too small. That's the right one. Now, I'm a big fan of using star bits. That's better. Sorry, bring you back into this. Who needs a BTT screwdriver with their 44 US dollars shipping to Australia? Now, I am going to have to be a bit careful with this because it's so fat. I'm going to end up over torquing these screws if I'm not careful. And there we go. I was actually teaching an engineering class about 6 or 8 weeks ago and explaining to students that a screwdriver is a lever, but it's not a lever and can't be used as a lever. It broke some of their heads. Just to explain what I mean. Distance between the center axis and here gives you a lever arm. And the wider the handle, effectively, the more torque you can apply to the pivot point. But you can't use it as a lever, as in a poke it lever, because that's what naughty people do to their tools. So it's a lever, but it's not a lever. But it's a lever, but it's not a lever. Was the conversation we ended up having. Yeah, very easy to strip those plastic parts. Fulcrum, that's the one I'm looking for. So let's go back to here. So this page is complete. Now we need millions and millions of M36s from memory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And another 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 of them. So that's 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it looks like we're going to be putting on the fender pieces. And we basically just follow the arch around. So let's go back to here. Get rid of that and that and that. That's not the part I'm looking for. That one. And that one are. Now some of these parts are still a bit hairy. I probably should have got the heat gun on them. One, two, three, four, five. So, going back to this for a moment, let's get this all aligned the way that. So, that goes there. That goes there. Now, my plan for a lot of these parts, especially where they're big parts like this, is to try wherever possible to do the middle fastener first and then work out from there, kind of head gasket style. That's not lined up. Let's try it this way. Cheap screwdrivers or levers? No, cheap screwdrivers are paint can openers. Ah. So what I've come up against is a little bit of elephant's foot on the edge of the part. And that's just meaning that the screw hole doesn't quite line up between the two parts. This is something else I've been teaching my students. Files have a direction. You should always be pushing with your file to do the cut. So when screwing a screw, is that a second class lever? Oh. I thought somebody was knocking on the door for a moment. It's the printer vibrating. I'm home alone at the moment, so the only people who I would hear knocking would be the mail deliveries. Still not quite there. I know I've seen it this morning. I'm just looking for my deburring tool, because that would be a faster way of doing it. I mean, a knife would be a fast way of doing it too, but I'd rather keep my fingers where they belong. No, I'm going to have to go back to the file. Now you might be able to see that this is one of the first pieces I printed. You can see there's a little bit of under extrusion. Turned out I'd got my line width setting just ever so slightly wrong. So I increased the line width setting from 110% to 140%, and all of those lines went away. And because it's a hidden surface, I didn't bother reprinting. That's better. It's already taken. And I'm being very careful to only tighten the screw until it pulls the gap closed and no further. Now I've got that, because I did the middle screw, this one here first, that then allows me to pivot it around that point to make sure that I've got it all lined up for the other screws, which should make putting them in a little easier. Let's go back to this one. We're almost an hour in already, guys. Time flies when Phil's waffling on. And you can see what I'm doing a bit better. I'm convinced that the hardest part about doing these streams is not me talking, because I have no difficulty with that. I can dribble verbal diarrhea for hours on end. It's making sure that you guys can see what I'm doing, because I forget to change scenes, and sometimes I forget I've got overlays like other cameras going on. So it makes it difficult for you guys to see. And I know at the moment you guys can't see where all the action is because it's hidden by the part. But I'd rather be able to see when this gap closes up nicely. Martin, how are you? And what time do you call this? You should have been here an hour ago, dude. I'm giving everybody hassle today if they're being late and slack. So it's the back 2 screws that get done. Which camera is going to show you guys the best? That one, I think. That appears to be full of something. Please bear with me a sec, guys. That screw hole has been printed through. Sorry if you got wobble. Oh no, you're not on the camera that got knocked. No, that's not at work. I have an M3 size drill bit here somewhere, but I can't find it. My labeling of these drawers on the side behind me here is still ongoing. So how can I very gently break that out? So what's going on? That hole there is full of plastic for some reason. I need to get that plastic out without damaging the rest of the part. Hemostat's not going to work. Oh, something else I got from my 6 for $9 thing. Hemostat for grabbing and gripping things. If any of my students are watching, if I catch you using my nippers for gouging holes in plastic, I will kill you. I would not subject you guys to a drawer organizing stream. Can't really do this where you guys can see and I can see well enough. No, that's not working. Overhand drilling. There we go. I missed the Lee Marie stream. What was happening? Keeler wasn't on stream. It was just Jeremy on his own. Christine saying watching figure it all out on his own. was there lots of dead air? Because Jeremy forgets to talk is one of the things I noticed about Jeremy. I guess because Keeler normally fills all the gaps for us. That's better. So, all 5 on this side. Time for rinse and repeat. Let's now, because we know that there's already that issue with the part and we need to clean it up, I'm going to spend 10 more seconds looking to see if I can find my missing deburring tool. It's not the one I was looking for, but it'll do the job. So you can see the elephant's foot on that part. Like I said, this was the first pair of parts I printed, and they were dimensionally accurate. I just hadn't paid close enough attention to some of the fine-tuning. But there we go. That should be a lot better. File to clean it up. Now, before we do this, let's check all these holes are all the way through. Yes, they are. Loads of cuts to different camera angles. Is that because he didn't have to worry about making sure Keeler stayed in shot because she's so short? Oh, did I say that? You know I love you, Keeler, because I know she will probably watch this as a VOD later. Turn this around so you can see. So for Martin, who joined us late because he's a slacker, I'm doing there's 5 screws that I have to put in for this part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm doing the middle one first and then the outers, because that then allows me to pivot around that one that I do first to make sure it's all lined up. Now that raid-in that the guys did for me the other day, just before Rocky Mountain, that really helped my numbers. So I'm eternally grateful for them, to them for their generosity and help they've given me. I think I picked up like 10 subscribers from them raiding in, which is awesome. While I'm doing all of this, a quick reminder to Martin and anybody else who joined late to make sure they hit like on the stream. Doing all that YouTuber talk now. During all of this, I think I've lost one of the screws, but that's fine. It could be that I just miscounted getting them out in the first place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there's actually 6 screws and I put an extra one in that I didn't need to by the looks of it. Ah, you know that middle one I've been putting in and using as a point twist around? That's not supposed to go in yet. I'll point that out on the manual when I got this screw in and can't lose it. But it does beg the question, why didn't you guys catch that? Now this is actually a really good point to, again, repeat why picking the right printer for the job is a must. This over shiny spot in the middle of this part was from printing being too hot. The over shiny spot is basically the filament just stayed hot too long. This one was printed on the Voron when I was just trying to work everything out. And yeah, because it was overcooked, it stayed shiny. So, pick the right printer for the job, guys. Open air printers for PLA are by far the best. So let's go back to this manual. So if you see this hole here, this is the one I've been putting the screw into and pivoting around. It doesn't take a screw yet. So I'm going to need to take those 2 out. Let's go back to... Don't put them on. Now, everybody congratulate Brad. He became a grandpa yesterday. Since PLA shrinks, did you have to print it a little bit bigger? PLA doesn't really shrink, it's ABS that shrinks normally, Brad. I did have to print these slightly bigger. I do scale them slightly when I'm putting them through the slicer, but that's because of my printer's inaccuracy rather than the filament shrinking. It's an Ender 5, they're not known to be the exact right ones. It's ABS that does the shrinking and a little bit of ASA shrink as well. It's the styrene molecules. Just noticed a slight air gap between 2 of these panels. So I'm very gently tweaking them up. Yeah. Again, remembering, guys, that there's no heat sets. So you have to be a little bit gentle and a little bit subtle with the way you screw things together. So we've got 10 M36s installed, and we can move on to the next. Okay, the trim pieces. These are the ones I had difficulty printing and had to do again. And these are definitely going to need a little bit of a cleanup, because in order to get them to print, I printed them with a very fine brim, because they're printed this way, that way, which means that there's very little surface area to actually contact the build surface. And I would rather a little tiny bit of post-processing like this than 10 attempts at printing it to get one good result. Now there's a little tiny lip, so I've had to get a different shape file. I apologize if the focus is a little bit wobbly. I'm just trying to do this as much as I can where you can see it. And that's the trade-off. And just for those guys who did join late, there's a possibility that we may run into a stumbling block in terms of a part that's not yet printed or a part that's not yet arrived, in which case we've got a plan B in terms of what we can do to finish off the stream. I was sent out of the blue a Panda Touch controller by Big Tree Tech. No idea why. Nobody I can talk to over there can tell me why. My rep doesn't know why. It's not sponsored because I didn't even know it was coming. But we're going to flash that across to be a K-Touch, a Clipper Touch, instead of a Panda Touch if we run out of things we can do. Just getting rid of all this junk off my desk and into the cardboard box I use as a bin. So let's put that over there for a moment. Let's go to the manual. I think I might have accidentally double scaled these parts when I printed them. Some of these parts were printed at 2 o'clock in the morning. And what I think I've done is these parts, because they're printed this way, and I scale by 103%, scale to 103%, I think I've done that 103% twice because the way the dialog box works. And as a result, it's quite considerably too long to fit where it's supposed to go. I've got two choices. I can try and very carefully scalpel and file, or I can reprint these parts. Let's see what this depends on. So I really can't do an awful lot more in this part of the build without putting these into place. Because, let me explain. This is the surface that the screw goes into to get to here. And this surface is then going to be disappear up against one of these surfaces. I'll work it out in a minute. Okay. I'm getting something wrong here. These surfaces go together and they're not going together. Sorry guys, I'm just figuring this out and working it all through. Yeah, that surface disappears, you can't get to it. Why the need to scale? The need to scale is because my Ender 5 isn't entirely dimensionally accurate. So I have to adjust the parts ever so slightly in some dimensions to make them fit. And what I think I've done is I've done that adjustment in the middle of the night twice. So it's 103% bigger, and then 103% bigger than that has led me to this issue. So we've got two choices. I could file a notch here to make it fit, or I can reprint. I can't reprint right now because I've got parts already going on the printer. They have another 3.5 hours to go, so that's not really an option. I'd rather leave those going. Let's have a skim through the manual, see if there's another section we could work on. The grey tray. Now this was printed in the same batch, so this may also not fit reliably, but we will look. Now, something else you need to be aware of with the 3D sets parts, they are designed in such a way as to slot together in some cases with tapers, and you could end up breaking apart by not realizing that you have to slide something together instead of press it together. So I'm very, very wary of just whacking two pieces together at this point. So explaining this further, this taper here matches with a slight taper on these parts. Yes, I know it's very hairy. This lip here effectively matches up with the taper. And if I was to just whack these two pieces together, I would probably end up breaking something. So I may be at that point where we go, okay, Phil needs to sit and clean up all these parts more thoroughly and then reprint some parts to make this work. Go a couple more pages forward. Frame B. Do we have a frame B part? No, we don't have a frame B part because that's the part that broke coming off the build plate and is in my I need to reprint this list. So I think we've reached that point, guys, where we need to put this on pause. I'm going to put all of these parts in my parts box. And we are going to do the swap over to from Panda Touch to Clipper Touch on the Big Tree Tech screen. I seem to recall that I flipped this over for some reason. No? Maybe I need to flip it over in this one. So give me a moment. Add a video effect. Okay. I'm just changing it so that you're reading things the same way up I'm reading things. Poundhammer! How was Rocky Mountain? I know you managed to get there because you were driving people around and stuff. So for those who are late and those who are just joining us now, we were building the 3D Sets truck. I'm having some trouble with some slightly off scaling on some parts. And as a result, I've drawn a line in the sand. I'm going to fix those parts up. I'm going to reprint a couple of the parts as necessary. And then we can come back to them next week. But I was sent, for no apparent reason that I can find, a Panda Touch. Nobody knows by whom at Big Tree Tech. All that we know is that it was sent to me. So these things are specifically coded for the Bamboo Lab printers. I don't have one, but we can flash this across to be compatible with Clipper, so that's my plan. So what do we got in here? We've got what feels like some mounting screws, some sort of mounting plate, USB cable. Decided to procrastinate on my streaming and build a positron and just watch your stream instead. Welcome aboard. So what we've got is the screen. We've got a cable. Do I have a USB cable I can connect to? That's the next question. Let's steal the cable from my Meet 2 camera, because that's right next to me. So that camera up the top, it's just going to sit there paused until it times out, and then you'll probably get a little error message up there. Nothing I can do about that at this point. That's just the way we need to deal with it. So let's play Will It Boot? Is it doing the boot loop thing that these are renowned for? It might be doing the boot loop thing that it's renowned for. Okay, powering it from its internal battery, and it seems to work. So we'll go with that for now, which means let's plug this in for a few more minutes. Hopefully that picks itself back up. So it's asking me what language. I'm going to pick English. It's asking me for my Wi-Fi password. Bear with me a few moments. No, it's just logging into the Wi-Fi, hopefully. Please connect to the internet by selecting Wi-Fi network on the right and entering the password. Hit refresh if you need to define the desired network. And there's a QR code you can scan. It's currently running on Big Tree Tech's 1.0.6.3. And it doesn't look like it's connecting. Not the end of the world. So let's press escape here and let's go to Big Tree Tech GitHub. Repositories. That's the Panda Touch. But we're not going to play with the Panda Touch. K-Touch. Printed parts we don't need. Flashing tool we will. Where's the download link? Download, there we go. Download raw file. And version 1.1 appears to be the latest. It's certainly the latest chronologically there. Bootloader, partition, I'm going to download all of those. You're reasonably late for this one, Clownhammer. Sorry, I'm just concentrating and downloading all of this stuff. Okay, so minimize. Now you guys can't see what's going on a little bit by design, because I really don't want you guys seeing my Windows environment. But what I've got going on currently is I've got all of those files downloaded, except one. Okay, that must be what was going on, and yes. So I'm just decompressing the zip file, and then I'll add the partition tool as a source. So and add a source, a window capture, partition. So I'm just adding select a window to capture, not that one, that one. Now I have to do this really slowly, otherwise it will crash. So we need some instructions, I'm going to guess. Do. Firmware. Here we go. How to use a different firmware, updating KTouch to PandaTouch and vice versa. It is crucial that you back up data. Don't need to worry about that. We've got nothing on there. Ensure. Let's go over to the PandaTouch and go to the equivalent page, because that's what we're actually doing, just to be safe. You know my password, it's a whole bunch of stars. I am in the process of, when I've got some time, of creating a specific Wi-Fi for my workshop stuff. It doesn't matter whether you see the Wi-Fi password in reality, unless you're sitting outside my front door. You're not going to be able to see it anyway. Firmware feature requests. So it's somewhere here that we saw all this. Firmware history. There is no instructions on how to flash it the other way here. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just have to hopefully get this done. Ensure KTouch is connected to the Wi-Fi network, showing blah, blah, blah. Visit KTouch repository. Download the latest firmware versions. Yeah, we've got all that. Enter KTouch's IP address on computer and then click Update Firmware. Now, this didn't connect, so I have no idea what's going on. Trying to connect it to my Wi-Fi one more time. Oh, got it that time. And we're connected. Click Next. Okay, so we are connected to the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, guys, I'm reading through all this, trying to work out the best way to deal with this. So, how to use a different firmware. Note it is crucial to back up data. Switching between KTouch firmware and PandaTouch firmware will erase the existing data, record necessary information. Don't need to worry about that. Ensure KTouch is connected to the Wi-Fi network, showing the same local network as the computer to obtain the necessary IP for OTA updates. Okay, so where's my phone? Back in a moment, it's out in the kitchen. And I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I have a Ubiquiti network, so it's finding the IP addresses and stuff is actually pretty straightforward. Logging in. Devices. Sort by connection time. Okay. ESP32S3, that must be it. It's a bit odd they don't give it a better... Yeah, that's it. So that is what IP address? 212. Let's play Will It Load? No. Let's see if it's a plain HTTP. Yes, it is. So we're connected to that one. Update firmware. Maybe it's this simple. If it's not, maybe I bricked it. OTA upgrade interface. Please connect to the Wi-Fi network. All right. This is the OTA upgrade interface. Please connect to the Wi-Fi that the device containing the image file is currently connected to. Update firmware button. Use the bin file. Update the... Sorry, guys, I'm just muddling through this. Finally catching one of my streams. Thanks, Kenneth. How are you? I saw you subscribed a couple of weeks ago. So what I'm currently doing is the 3D Sets truck. I've had a few issues with the printed parts. So I was sent a Panda Touch out of the blue, and I don't have any Bamboo printers, so I'm flashing it across to be a K-Touch. But the instructions aren't exactly straightforward, so I'm muddling through. So what the device is currently saying is connected to the Wi-Fi. I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. I've got an IP address. It says update firmware button, use the bin file image. Update file button, use the image file. So The thing is, this the way this software is designed, when I click on things, it says it's updating file system. OTA upgrade success. I'm connected to Wi-Fi. Bigtree Tech K-Touch Settings Manager. Woohoo! So I'm going to take a punt now that we need to restart it, and then that will load. Normally you see Pez or zombie streams. Yeah, I try to catch most of them. I'm normally on the Lee Marie ones when I can get there. And apart from last week, where I just slept clean through my alarm, I'm normally on the Modbot YouTube streams today as well. Mostly so I can say, hi everybody, don't forget to come to my stream. Okay, so I'm guessing it's now looking for an image file. Did I download an image file? I'm getting crazy boot looping on, screen looping on the. Bigtree Tech. Was that the file that it didn't want to give me? Yes, it was. Okay. I've worked out what's going on now, guys, I think. Choose a file from my desktop. Image file. Open. I'm hoping that it was just the fact that I'd closed the update interface and it didn't have an actual image file going on that caused that, Adrian. If not, all sorts of wackiness could ensue. Let's reboot it. I mean, it could have just gone flat, which would be even more fun. Ah. Well, the screen lights up like this. It just doesn't, it just goes into that loopy thing. Let's try a dumb USB power connection. Aha! Choose a file. Find the image file. Open. And on the device, it now says updating file system. Now all we can do is fingers crossed here. Update succeeded, and it's now rebooting. And we're in English. And that Wi-Fi will work. Select a printer you want to add. Manually add a printer. Now, let's go. I don't know what the IP addresses of my printers normally are. So I'm just doing, and that's IPv6, which is really, really not helpful. My Voron's got a really new version of Raspbian on it, so it's gone over to IPv6. Let's go with one of my V0s, .178. Okay, next. Do you want to connect to this printer? Yes, I do. Next. And it looks like it's working. Let's plug that cable back in and swap across to the little camera. It might take a moment to boot up. Connecting, and that's me. Still frozen. And we're back. Okay, cancel. Okay for that one. So it was, apart from the instructions being a little bit lacking, which I'll feed back to my beta rep, that wasn't too bad. I mean, it was kind of operating in the dark, and somebody who didn't have any flashing firmware experience would be a little bit lost on that. But that's now connected to my V0. It's connecting to console. That seems to self-scroll if we need to. Now the V0 is all the way across the other side of the room. But let's just see what its end stops are saying. Just because we can. Now they're all virtual end stops except the Z, so they probably won't actually say anything useful. There we go, that might show up a bit better. So, the extruder's at 22 degrees, the bed's at 23.5 degrees. The discrepancy is probably just differences between the two different thermistors. And the, as you can see, it's got the Fly Gemini 2 mainboard and all the temperatures. From here, it looks like you're supposed to be able to do stuff. Now, the interesting thing and the cool thing that I think is going to make my life a little bit easier about this is these have the facility to plug in a USB stick. So if I get random student files that I need to print out, I can bring them all home on a USB stick, plug them into this, and then print them out without having to risk putting that USB stick into my normal computers. because students' computers are nasty, vile things that they do all sorts of nasty things to. So yeah, well, that's working. Has anybody got any questions about what we've done? Because I know it was a little bit confusing, and you guys didn't get to see all of it because of the way my computer is set up. But basically, once I'd worked out that I needed to go to that website that the device generates, it wasn't that difficult. It was just a case of locating which 2 files I needed to send to it. So yeah, I'm going to have a chat with my Big Tree Tech rep about updating the instructions to make that a little clearer. Tell us how you really feel about student computers. Okay, let me tell you this, Angel. I teach kids who are just joining what we describe as high school, but in the US is called middle school. So kids who are 11 turning 12. They've just been given their brand new shiny laptop by their parents, and they get sent off to school on day one, and probably 3 or 4 out of the 200 kids would have smashed their screen before the end of the first day. Usually within the first month or so, there's probably 1 kid in every class has smashed their screen. And then the kids that do manage to keep their computers alive for more than a couple of years, the hinges are broken, the space bar's fallen off. Nobody has any idea where the N key went to. They're just using the end of their pencil to poke inside the switch point. I'm sure you've seen all that sort of stuff as a sysadmin. Plenty of experience with interns. My brother runs the IT for some schools in Iowa, and he's very much in that same sort of situation, except from they actually supply Chromebooks to their students rather than the parents having to supply their laptops. And what goes on with those poor Chromebooks, you would not want to put any kind of UV light anywhere near them because you just wouldn't want to see it. I mean, I got a message a few weeks ago saying, I need a day off. I've already seen 5 students junk, because all of that stuff gets sent through to the school counselor, and the school counselor doesn't want to look at that stuff. So the school counselor gets my brother to inspect emails that have been caught by their filter, which may contain adult material. So yeah, lots of fun. I'm sure you don't quite have to deal with that as a sysadmin for a normal business, although I'm sure you probably had to investigate staff who've been doing the wrong thing. So we're just about at the end of my stream window. For those of you who don't normally catch my streams, I normally stream from 10 a.m. to 12 lunchtime here in Perth, which is basically 2 a.m. till 4 a.m. in the UK, and whatever times that is in the US. I understand that most people, well, there's a significant portion of the US on exactly opposite time to me, so it's probably coming up to midnight for a large number of people in the US right now. So I'm going to call it quits here. Next week, we'll be moving on with the 3D Sets truck. I will have cleaned up those parts, reprinted the parts that looked a little bit too long, and yeah, we will move on from there. So let's go back to me for a second. I have been Phil. I am the Down Under Maker, and I will catch you all next week. It's time for me to bounce on out of here. Bye. Have a good one, everybody.